his pockets and you can't find it.
That's loud, baby.
We're hot.
All right.
It looks like they literally just like took one of his buses. He's like, I'm not saying he invented like green teal or blue and red.
Check.
Okay, cool. How
Yep,
you doing,
yep.
everybody? One voiceover?
Check.
How we doing? Yeah, made a mouthful. We come to our last guest speaker, which usually our last class is going to be on Monday. I know we spoke a bit last class about culture and subcultures and rituals and consumption rituals and a little bit about myths, and not to call him like a walking legend per se, because that would make him feel awkward because he's here in front of us. But you know, I can say just for myself as a New Yorker, there aren't a lot of heads outside of like Virgil Abloh or Kanye West that kind of like ring out in like a pantheon type of way, but giving him his just due credit, Joe Freshgoods is definitely one of those names. I've actually got to know him through my friend 40 Ounce Van, who's kind of the Joe Freshgoods of New York, if you could think of it that way. So even to be called that is kind of like a big deal. Joe's done a lot of amazing things. Most recently, he's joined the transitional team for Mayor-elect Lori Lightfoot. As well as we were just talking about this, his face is muralized on the corner of, that's not Green, that's north of Green, that's Morgan and Fulton Market. So, yeah, I mean, to have like a bust of yourself on like a wall before you know you're in the ground is like a big deal.
Yeah,
So,
it's a little awkward, but it works.
yeah. But you know, he's a neighborhood pioneer. He is a proprietor of business. He is a designer of interesting goods and fashions and merchandise. He's worked for everyone from Adidas to MasterCard. Without further ado, my friend Joseph Robinson, also known as Joe Freshgoods.
Thank you very much. Check. I'm good, right? Can I look up and talk? Okay. So this is my first time doing something like this. Usually when I do panels or workshops, it's a question and answer basis. So fresh out for Coachella, I'm not used to just talking for about an hour or whatever. So bear with me here. I talk a little fast, so I'm gonna try to slow down. I hit the button a little bit, so I'm feeling relieved. But so we influence the influencers. That's pretty much the basis of my life and where I am right now as a designer, entrepreneur, still living in my hometown. I'm going to address, and it ties back into consumer behavior, everything that I do, you know. Going to address how I came up. Oh, there you go, right there. That's a good video.
And I just want to ask you, Joe, when it comes to you creating your product, is it kind of a think tank that you have going on? Is it just coming off of your head?
And this was last year at Chicago Ideas.
Or do you have like a group of people that help you kind of suss out what
Partner stuff at the shop, it's a real day, pretty much kind of like meet up once a week and come up with things going on. I think sometimes for me, I look around what's going on in fashion and just try to figure out what's my place. I think I love the power of a t-shirt. And like with my Thank You Obama collection, I knew nobody in the world was going to be able to do how I did that, or just do that. You know what I'm saying? So like I look at worldly issues sometimes and like just try to put my spin on it. You know? I think what's weird now sometimes when things happen, people like, yo, this person died, so you gonna make a t-shirt of that? Like, no, man, I'm not. But it's like I try to voice myself as like the hood CNN of like fashion.
I like that. Question?
Yeah, have a question. No one I really look up to sort of all three of you for obviously similar reasons, but very different reasons for us for your different like places in the fashion world. I'm curious to get your opinion on two things that are related. One is this huge sort of like hype, which can obviously be beneficial in marketing, but like that's led to like this crazy reseller sort of like world that sort of exists and sort of floats around fashion, and sort of some of it's really predatory, some of it's really not predatory in like bad people kind of way, but you know, like the notion you're just talking about price and how maybe these are horrible, but then you know people can buy it, tap it up, and then they're like making margin off what you want to do. And in that same vein, what do you think about, you know, something like Supreme, which just took that $500 million investment from private equity? Like, what do you think about that and what that does to a brand like Supreme, and how do you guys navigate that? A lot in there, sorry.
Loaded.
Yes, so I'll start with the Supreme, then I'll work back to the beginning. So private equity capital, you don't know how it works. They invest in something, and within 5 years they want to exit. They want a multiple, which means they give you $500 million, they want to multiply that times 5. So with that, you're going to cut a lot of corners to get to that 5x growth. So if they're $500 million, I think $1 billion valuation, that means they're going to have to be $5 billion within 5 years. So they're going to be putting a whole bunch of stores, a whole bunch of products, so it might kill the brand's kind of cash in value. It's going to be easy to get. Now, when you talk about the resale culture, there's two things that you got to think about. One, did the company price the product too low? Because if a person is, if you sell it for $150 and they can get $600 for it, then I would yell at the person who did the pricing for your product, because you didn't actually understand the value the product means to the culture, because you're not in the street. That's the first piece. Maybe it's misunderstanding of value. And two, to the reseller, you got to realize these are the same kids that collected Pokemon cards when they just grew up. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's different, like the essence of the culture. When I got into sneaker cultures, I was doing it 100% for me. I didn't care about taking a pic and posing and putting it on these blogs. Like, it was just like, man, I love that shoe. I want to wear that shoe. I want BK Diamond Sales, Reebok Pump, everything, man. Like, so it was about what I felt was right for me. So this reseller culture, it makes it difficult because the people who really love it and want it can never get it. So I don't have an answer to it. I mean, write a better bot algorithmically to get there faster. You know, demand that the companies make enough product and have a different reservation. Because remember, you're still giving up the money, so you can control the commerce as a consumer. So, like, put your money to work. Stop buying and freeze people out and say, all right, I change the distribution, or we not buying from you no more, because I don't want my kids getting killed in the streets or X, Y, Z. So realize the power you have as the buyer, but also understand the dynamics of the game and how people are incentivized. People are incentivized for the quick flip. It's no longer like Joe mentioned. They don't want to. People aren't incentivized to be in the street and get to know people. I just met this brother yesterday. I walked into the store, he's there, and treated me like we were family. That's the type of people I want to shop with, right? And so,
all right. Wow, we back on. All right. Do that. So, that videos, I did that at Chicago Ideas last year. That was my first time speaking to a crowd that big. I was with the legend, Dapper Dan, who, you know, obviously been all this Gucci stuff that's been going on, but got some good game from him. It was good to be on the crowd amongst those big people in fashion. So that's like a little insert of the homie bigging me up a little bit. All right, got to be a better way to do it. All right, so I'm Joe. You know, I think right now it's a little, I don't like to define myself by one thing. I be in these big rooms with these CEOs and these like whatever, and they ask me what I do. Literally, I was at Chan's wedding a month ago. I was sitting next to Hebrew, which is a big artist in Chicago, good friend. Me, Kanye, Kim, Dave Chappelle, and Chris Rock. I don't know how I was at that table. Thank Chance, but I was at that table, and I felt awkward. I was like, what the fuck am I doing at this table, man? And I met Kanye like twice, but, you know, when you're really big, you'd be like, who are you again? So he asked me what I did, and I just like, I make shirts. So I always do that. You know, it's really hard to define what I do. I do a lot, you know. So it's pretty much broken down into, I would say, 3 categories right now. So Don't Be Mad is my clothing brand, primarily in the streetwear category. Started in 2009, I want to say. And it was basically, I had an idea where I wanted to turn $80 into a clothing brand, and I wanted to document it on the internet. So since then, it was called Dope Boy Magic back in the day. That's when I had like half of Chicago wearing the tie-dye hoodies that had the box logo on it. Got in a lot of legal trouble, had to switch the name to Don't Be Mad. So that's, DBM. So Joe Freshgoods is me. First it was just a social media name that I just picked. And over time, it has become my like private label. Whenever I collaborate with big companies, I use my name. That's what people know me as now. And then Fat Tiger Workshop is my brick and mortar store. It's been open, this is the 6th year right now. We're at 836 North Milwaukee. And it's pretty much, the idea behind that shop was to bridge the gap within the community. I'm not the type of person like to take from people when it comes to selling, items. So, we decided to call it Fat Tiger Workshop because Fat Tiger, it just didn't sound like a store, We wanted something that didn't sound like a urban boutique, So I know Fat Tiger sounded weird, and then a workshop, we decided to do workshops, kind of giving back to the community. Our shoppers or whatever, just workshops on taxes and, so a lot of stuff pertaining to fashion besides just making t-shirts. A lot of kids come to me wanting to have a brand, but, certain things that I wish I would have knew back in the day. So that's Fat Tiger Workshop.
Real quick, just
Yeah.
on is that more about your ethics as a neighborhood person and a business person, or is that just about the sustainability of your brand? I mean, Frank Lucas gives turkeys, and T.I. gives turkeys because giving turkeys gets goodwill.
Right.
Like, that's clearly not your energy about it. But I mean, doing workshop on taxes, teaching kids, certain digital crafts that the barrier of entry is very high because you need the software or you need the computer, and all of that requires money that people may or may not have. So just speak a little bit more on like that part of your practice, which I think is a large part of why you were tapped to join the transition team and directorships for the mayor election.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it goes back to just owning a brand and having a brand. We're all taught like literacy and a lot of stuff. How I grew up, I didn't learn how to save money. I didn't learn anything about my taxes. I just wanted to dress fly. I had really good parents. They put me in good schools, but as a child, I learned what I want to learn. And, just when I started selling clothes and seeing what my consumer was and how they looked and what backgrounds they come from, I'm like, wow, they look just like me. And again, I just don't like to sell without being able to I feel uncomfortable selling clothes sometimes. So, within that, I like to give knowledge. That's why, I will talk about this later on, but with my pop-up shops, I like to be at my store. The bigger I get, people are so freaked out. Just like kind of what my man said, that I'm still at my store. I have 6 employees now, travel the world, but you might catch me ring you up on a Tuesday. And it's like, what, I'm getting ringed up by Joe? Of course, So, it's just with giving back to the community, teaching things about just stuff that I didn't know, I just became official legal a year and a half ago. But I've been in business technically for 10 years. So it's a lot of things that people don't understand. It's just I want to shed the light on owning a business. When I first opened up Fat Tiger, it was just simply me and my homie coming up with $1,600 to put on a deposit. We dressed it up with stuff with IKEA. So that was my first instinct of owning a business or whatever. But as far as the hard stuff that I think a lot of the kids in these urban communities don't know about, I like to teach them as I'm learning too. I bring people in from around the world to talk to kids. So it's one of those things where I feel good about giving back besides just always selling stuff to people. So these are a few clients I've worked with in the past 2 years. It's not like it should be a little bit more than that, but that's I'll get into a little bit more details with each of them, but it's just somehow, some way, a lot of companies realize that, you know, we live in an influencer age. It goes back into the we influence the influencers where, you know, I have a knack of taking a large company that's really like a McDonald's, you know. You know, everybody have their problems, their distress of what they don't like about McDonald's, but, you know, they tapped me in. I told a good story. McDonald's wanted me to sell the items that we made and, yeah, to sell them in different McDonald's around the U.S. And I was like, no, that's whack. What we will do is we're going to pick the McDonald's all across like in New York, LA, Chicago, and Atlanta. So I made McDonald's pick all the McDonald's that's in the like lower poverty areas, and we gave it away for free. With that, it was lines of, I think we released it like at 12 o'clock that day. It was lines at every McDonald's. And that was just one, I mean, again, convincing a big company with a huge agency to do it my way and it worked. So I'm able to tell that story. Yeah, so just a few of the companies that I've worked with the last few years. So West Side of Chicago is very key to my humble beginnings. You know, a part of being able to tell these good stories with product. When we talk about the word culture and what that means right now, the way I'm able to communicate with my consumer is because of how I started, you know. Right here is a picture of Madison and Pulaski, which is for me was the first home of, you know, the hustle. You know, it's always that big thing about the West Side versus South Side. West Side, we don't have no grass. It's a church on every block. Everybody dressed all colorful and flashy. But what I will say is the West Side, we're hustlers, you know. Chicago, like again, I hate that city segregation because at the end of the day, we're all Chicago. But it's always been a big thing about West Side versus South Side in Chicago. But for me, I would say I wouldn't be where I'm at right now for where I came from. You know, going back into Madison and Pulaski, it was where you would go to, you can go get your t-shirt airbrush, your ears pierced, some socks, some new Jordans, take a chick on a date, get some food, all in like one block. Very dangerous over there back in the day, but it was like, you know, where you got to start. I got to see how people sold items. I got to see the art of just gaining somebody, making something that's so small and make it seem so beautiful for somebody to spend that dollar on it, you know? So that was my first.
What was that like? I mean, your introduction to commerce. I mean, we're roughly at the same age, so like we're 80s kids. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, like late 80s through the early 90s, inner city Chicago, I mean, it was going through, it was in its a darker era, right? And it's going through a bit of a dark time. But I mean, with that in mind and you seeing kind of, maybe your intuition led you to see where things would go in the future. I mean, what was that like for you? Like,
well,
understanding that.
You know, back then it was the birth of the urban brands. For me, you know, I got to see Allen Iverson and Reebok do those ads with Jadakiss. I got to see, you know, 50 Cent sign that huge deal. This was maybe a little bit later, but
you're right, because we had Aniche, we had Mecca.
Yeah, Sean John. For me, you know, I got to see a lot of guys that looked like me having own brands, so I knew it was possible. And I just always liked to dress, you know what I'm saying? So it was, I'm saving up all my allowance to spend $230 on some pants. It's just like for a guy that's a freshman, that was like, for me that was a lot, but I just knew there's people like this all around the world that wants to just dress, you know? So I knew fashion, you know, that was a big thing. I started off selling t-shirts at high school, using current events. My first t-shirt was when a lot of the NBA players started to get arrested. Freshman in high school, I used to steal transfer paper from like an Office Max type shit. And I used to print out, I forgot, Kobe Bryant got in trouble. There was a few players that got in trouble. And I just posted them. It was the time of the ignorant t-shirt in the hood, you know? This is back when everybody used to wear the Biggie with the Coogee sweater picture. So that when the pictures was hot on the shirt, that's when I like shined. I would just find a picture on the internet, print it on a t-shirt and sell it at school. So, you know, it would be a line around my fucking locker to buy t-shirts. And that's like where it was like, oh, I have something here. It wasn't like I didn't know I was going to want to do this for a living necessarily, but that was the first time I realized something that anybody, because anybody could go to a spot, buy a T-shirt and print the same image out. So it was deeper than just doing something that anybody could do. I sold it, you know. Like when something big would happen on MTV, I would make a shirt about it, you know. So it was my first introduction to moving fast.
Interesting.
Anybody, I went to Lane Tech. Lane Tech is huge. Anybody could have did what I did, but I moved fast. I started to tell a story with these tees, and it kept things kind of limited, which kind of goes into how I am now, what I do now.
So the light bulb went off. Like Young Commerce was limited supply and scarcity, right?
Yeah. I didn't have to sell drugs. You know, I found the way to make money without having to be like,
in trouble on the street.
Trouble,
like
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And work, and I made decent little money. So I sold T-shirts for like $20. I would sell about 20, 30 T-shirts a week. So for somebody that's like 14, that was like decent. I had to ask my parents for money. So that was like my intro to learning the consumer, understanding the dollar a little bit better, and learning how to put back. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens a lot of time with a lot of people that start brands and start new businesses is that you have the chance of being successful early on. You get that bulk of money and you don't put it back into your business. So like, you know, for me, and it goes back into why I created Dope Boy Magic, because I knew that with $80, you know, it's simple math. And again, like the videos that I said earlier, said it'd be a little racy for the class. But no, the videos that I wanted to show initially, they were really tacky, but I started using Facebook. When Facebook first popped off, I started creating these videos on my MacBook to show how you can buy my clothing. So I would wrap it up like drugs. You know, it was I was early on, like a lot of people that copied my whole wave.
Before you go any further, textbook-wise, what's that referred to as? Starts with a P. 2 words, P with a D. Parody display. Obviously, it's not real drugs, it's a T-shirt, but he's capitalizing on the clickbait potential of people getting really excited about this, right? Right? I mean, other brands try to do this. Dan Patrick for GoDaddy, for instance, right? Something kind of right thing, wrong place, wrong thing, right place, right? Whatever gets the conversions going is what marketers ultimately care about. So Joe clearly understood the value of people's sensationalism about these things from a very early age.
So, you know, real quick, artists all around you. It's like everything that I went through in the past basically just shaped who I am as a man. And now me having a daughter, I understand how art is so important at the early stages. You know, like I don't really yell when my daughter drawing on the wall no more. You know, it's just certain things like that we have to make sure as older that we make sure we keep the arts alive. The older you get, sometime that parent or that teacher telling you throw that away and stop drawing in class. Like again, everything we say is between us because a lot of things I haven't announced to the world yet. But like I remember vividly my teacher in 3rd grade. I should have been sketching some shoes in class, but I was just sketching some gym shoes on a piece of paper. And my teacher came and just ripped it up and be like, "What are you doing? You're not going to make shoes and be a firefighter or some shit like that or whatever." And you know, now I have a collab with Adidas coming out in December, so I'm coming out with like 2 pair of shoes. But yeah, it's just like little small stuff like that we have to make sure that we keep art alive at a young age, you know, and it just things all around you end up shaping who you are and how you communicate your company or your brand down the line. So another example of something shaping how I grew up and how I try to use it into my art now is the beauty supply. The beauty supply is something in the hood, usually not owned by nobody of my background, but it's that place you can go to where you can get anything. So it's similar to like what I was describing about Madison and Pulaski. You go there, you can get a fresh white T-shirt, clean socks. Woman, you can go get crazy, go get your wig, do-rag, all that stuff. So, you know, and it was this era like early 2000s where all the bootleg stuff, like bootleg is such a hot fashion word right now, but like the beauty supply was like the anchor of the bootleg, you know? And you can find Timberlands, Air Force Ones, all that shit that wasn't really real, you can go see a local beauty supply and be all over and it'd be fly. And you wasn't really getting teased about it like that, you know what I'm saying? So I just take a lot of stuff that I got from the beauty supply and kind of do it up. So, you know, and so 2 years ago, taking that same theme about, you know, the beauty supply, bringing the community together and like, you know, the art that's behind a lot of the things that's inside, I did this art exhibit called The Beauty Supply. So this was 2017 in like March or whatever. So it was real abstract. You know, I used sand and it was just an experience or whatever. It was more so about how you feel when you go inside there. I had one room that was, you know, it was the sounds of the West Side. I had somebody selling like hot cheese and flaming hots and all. It was like, I want you to walk in and feel, you know, and it's not just a Chicago West Side thing. This is all over the nation. But I wanted a certain person to walk in there and feel that experience that I felt when I was younger shopping. You know, so that was you know, that was me basically using something that I grew up on and how I came up and just used it to my knowledge now in my art.
Before we advance, though, I just wanted you to speak a little bit more on this. You know, usually when these types of immersive installations are put on, it's usually not from someone of that community, so it's very easily labeled as voyeurism or you're just sampling. Clearly, you're a person who understands these things, so like you knowing the real intention and heart behind it, right? And you catering it to audiences that you know will get that, but you're also hedging and expecting on audiences that might misunderstand it, sometimes intentionally. People do tend to do this, i.e. art critics, right? How did you defend the juxtaposition of, you know, flaming hots and the sensory, you know, the sensory marketing of like the city, not marketing, but the sensory ambiance of the city with things like, you know, if I take it, this is the painted sand, this is the pink and green sand. So like, how do you, as a marketer, how did you decipher the people who looked at it with low involvement and like, oh, this is just something I heard about, versus high involvement people from the community that really invested? They're like, yo, this is fire, but like, I have feedback on X, Y, Z. You're like,
Well, you know, for me, I do look at myself like the superhero of speaking for my people when it comes to fashion. So, you know, because it is a lot of exploitation and culture appropriation in fashion. So sometimes I just simply, I do a lot of things like, you know, now, like I said, bootleg is big, but like, I don't never take for somebody that's ground level and it's like my peers. Usually when you see a lot of my flips and a lot of the stuff that I got cease and desist from, it's really just me poking fun at corporations. You know, it's just because, again, like I've been doing this for a while, it's still nobody to step up to the plate and like, yo, I'm gonna speak up for my people. I'm gonna take things that I grew up on. I'm not, instead of Balenciaga charging, you know, $2,800 for a Welcome to New York airbrush jean jacket that's you can literally buy at like a souvenir shop for $14.99. You got a lot of companies selling like jelly flip-flops that you go get to the beauty supply for $800 and like, you know, it's just like, oh, y'all doing all that? Well, I'm gonna do this, you know? So and at the same time, when you're dealing with something that I wanted to give to the public, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about the beauty supply and I'm gonna have my, you know, my preface on the wall but I gotta make it beautiful because a lot of times people not gonna understand, you know, I do know a lot of my fans and people that support me don't come from my background, and I never want to single people out. You know, because I'm not trying to be super black power. Fuck everybody that's not black. No, I'm just basically telling people where I come from, and this is my art to the world via whatever avenues that it is. You know, because I look at all the people that line up for my stuff and a lot of the kids and stuff, and it's just like it's everybody. You know, so I never want to come off as singling a group out, but I have to. You know, I can only come up with stuff that's in my mind. So things like the sand and walking through the trees and like, I just wanted to make it beautiful. Put a little sprinkle of like sauce on it so the art critics can be like, shut the fuck up, you know what I mean?
I feel you.
Like,
so it's like,
I gave y'all art too. Like I'm gonna give y'all, it's called the beauty supply. I got the fake Louis bag. Right. Like up there with the do-rags hanging off it. So it's gonna be that. But just to shut people up so they can respect me, I'm gonna give y'all some art too.
So you're like Chadwick in a lot of ways, like Wakanda forever, but like don't take me out of my element trying to help you don't take me out of my element trying to over-explain something you should, at a base level, understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I know who I speak for.
Right. I'm not trying to be over artsy. Like I speak for a guy or girl from all different backgrounds that's rich in culture, that comes from a certain background, that just want to give back a little bit. You know what I mean? I think sometimes we overcomplicate things to our consumer, and it just like, it comes off like you're just doing too much or it's not authentic, you know?
Speak on that a little bit more. We spent a lot of time this semester, and a lot of the other guest speakers complimenting what you're saying have spoke about the power of perspective, perception, you know, what it is to be authentic in an era where influencer marketing is really the crux of how brands essentially are either being lazy or it's their stopgap for money or resources or access they do not have. Leveraging authenticity is a big deal. So I guess what I'm taking from this is that you are fiercely protective about your authenticity because you know that it's all too easy, especially in a city like Chicago or the Central Territory for that matter, where because of economic influx or outflux, frankly, certain interests try to co-opt what they deem or feel is an easy local grab. And your response to that is politely, and sometimes maybe not so politely, that's not going to work. So just transitioning to the next thing, how does that color your point of view when you're in a room, again, just referring to transition committee, or you're in a room with a corporation like a MasterCard or an Adidas, or inversely a Nike who is always interested in some interesting pickled politics. How do you bring that to the table? Because it's not as if it's Netflix, they're like, hey Joe, like, is this okay to say the N-word in this film? You're like, I'm not the person to ask that. I'm gonna tell you what film, you know, that will make sense for, but I can't tell what film it's not gonna make sense for because I can't speak for that demo of people. Okay.
I mean, it's very challenging. You know, I met with the mayor's committee last week, and you know, it's kind of symbolism of what I'm dealing with right now. Where I go there, you know, I'm probably the youngest person in the room, the most unexperienced in that nature. Tattoos on my neck. I'm not dressed like nobody in there. So I come there a little late. You know what I'm saying? Probably smell like a little weed. You know, and I'm like automatically feeling a little like discouraged a little bit, you know, so it took me, you know, I knew that I got invited for a reason because I have a voice and, you know what I'm saying, the city really support what I got going on, I'm really in tune, but I get in certain rooms and I do feel like, damn, you know, and I think basically, it took me about a whole year not a year, it took me a while to get comfortable, you know, and when I walked into that room, it took me an hour to talk. I let all these old people sit and talk about, you know, what the youth need. So the committee is about arts and culture. And nobody in there, like, I be outside, which is a whole nother topic that I'm gonna get to, you know? A lot of designers, a lot of people that own companies, a lot of people that speak for our culture don't really be outside. Like I said, I just got back from Coachella. High as hell every day. Politicking, like talking to big execs of companies, like, I'll be outside, you know? I really...
On that with Coachella, I saw this meme that says Coachella's like the influencer Olympics.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be true?
Super funny. So that was my first time going, my last time going. You know, I'm 32 now, so it's like I can't you know, my body's conditioned a little different now. But it is a lot. Like if you are a certain person of a certain importance, you know, because I got fluid out there. So I got, you know, everything was taken care of for me. So that's the only reason I did go, but that is, I saw that meme too and I'm like, yo, that's exactly what Coachella is. It's just like running to different set times that everybody's got their phone taking pictures of themselves, let alone the crowd, the music. So it's just like, it's a lot.
And then the brands competing for the biggest off Coachella offsite.
Yeah, I don't know what age this is we're living in right now with the company agency reaching out to the influencer to, you know, I don't know if this bubble is going to burst soon. That's what I'm kind of worried about. That's why I try to pick the right partnerships when I do things now.
Did you see proof of this fear, like while you were there?
No. It just I know it's a lot of finessing going on by influencers. You know, and the whole thing is, it's like I don't think that I don't want to call people regular people because that's like fuck, but like. If people knew how much influencers, I hate that fucking word, but if people knew how much influencers got paid, the regular person to be like mind blown, you know? It's to the point now where it's just like, for me, I don't like that pay to pay game. For me, it's just like, hell no, I gotta really like the product, and then I'll maybe consider it. But that whole pay to pay, because that's, to me, that's like, and that's why all this stuff happened with FCC, and that's why you have to use ad now and like post, because it's shit with the festival and all that. But you know, it's to the point now where I got a lot of friends. It's like, yeah, I got 50 grand to post at one time. It's like, what? You know, a lot of people make that, you know, in a year.
Out of curiosity, how many followers do you have on Instagram?
So I have 60,000, which for my peers is not a lot. And it goes back into a lot of my things where, I'm gonna talk about that in my internet chapter a little bit, but it's not really about the followers, it's about your reach amongst people who follow you. Because you might have 200,000 followers, but none of those people want to actually buy a product from you or go to something that you put out, you know? So, you know, the companies are learning that, you know, the data and everything behind paying influencers, you know, because again, you might have somebody that have 200,000 followers, but their engagements are really low because people don't really fuck with what they say when they're actually posting it, you know what I mean? So it's a difficult thing. My engagement rates are really high, which means that with my 60K, which again, Chicago, the 60K is a lot, but when I step in the room with all these other people, it's like, I'm like the little kid, you know, amongst those guys, you know what I'm saying? So, but I can post a t-shirt and out of those 60K, maybe 20, 30K which is a high number, you know what I mean? So
that's interesting with your approach to less is more, or the quality is more important than the quantity, because Ben Jacobs from Stadium Goods was saying something very similar a few weeks ago, basically sharing that, you know, the whole hustle with conversions and eyeballs is kind of up. You know, it's really about how do you, you know, activate that purchase. And make that, not only make that into a successful purchase, a complete purchase, but a repeat customer and someone who becomes like a brand ambassador as well. So I can imagine for you that's a big part of the puzzle for you and your partners at Fat Tiger, because it is very much about, you know, you're not exactly close. Well, there's all different pockets of action in Chicago, but you know, you're further down Milwaukee from what most, you know, from stops that most people think about.
I'm out the, you know, out the way. You know.
Which makes for a better story, technically.
Yes, and I grew up over there. Not grew up, but that's like the stomping ground. So first we're gonna talk about culture. And you know what? I'm getting so tired of that word. So I was talking to my girl, like, well, how do you define culture? And we was just like, we started arguing and shit. Like, duh, you know, of course we were over this word that I'm so tired of hearing. And
but why though? You think it's
because how could you define culture?
Too many meanings.
It's like when I looked it up, it's the customary beliefs, social forms, material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. So that's like the textbook definition of culture. I guess, you know. So you know, when we talk about certain words, again, like I don't want to be too preachy because like the more this is different because I get to like talk a little bit, but like. I've been turning down doing panels in Chicago because it's just like, this worked for me. I'm not, you know, obviously I have good things that have happened to me, but like how I came up and what I did, it might not really work for somebody else. So it's just like, you know, it's culture for me, you know what I mean? And I know what I represent is for a large part of, you know, the U.S., I would say. So, but it's super tough to define what culture actually means.
Or at the very least being POC in the Central Territory.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so I kind of broke it down. So with me, with branding and opportunities and like just, I broke it down into 3 parts. Conversation. So everything has a story. My whole life is damn stories, man. But like with ComplexCon is, are you guys familiar with ComplexCon? Anybody? Yeah.
Yes, that's a trick question.
Man, ComplexCon is like walking inside the internet, you know, and it's like, oh shit, that episode of Dave Chappelle, where he's like walking in the internet, that's ComplexCon. And everybody, all these brands have booths, it's a lot of brand activations. I've been the last 2 years. It's so weird that it's coming to Chicago. I'm grateful, but it's like Chicago has never been. It's like, I don't know if Chicago know what they should be expecting. It's like, it's super dope if you're a shorty, but it's like you're walking into the internet. So you gotta take that with all the good and the bad of the internet, you know? So when they reached out to me to do a t-shirt, to be in a ComplexCon gift shop, you know, I thought to myself, you know, I have to continue to keep providing my message, you know? I do a lot of corporate things now, and like literally, I'm like, I just did one last deal last day and I'm like chilling. You know, I'm only doing things that really speak help my store out, help my community out, or just stuff that I could get to check off my list of things I wanted to do since I was younger. You know, so with this T-shirt, so Compass basically they wanted me to do a T-shirt for their gift shop. And when I think of CompassCon, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the brands that are my peers, that's like, you know, that has booth at CompassCon, they're not really owned by black people. And I wanted to just, even if I didn't sell one shirt, I just wanted to tell a message, to tell my story. So, you know, I was doing research on articles about the power of the black dollar, giving back, and like how keeping things in your community. So it's like, you know what, I often like to use my platforms to just like put a kind of middle finger to people. So
to what intent though? I know the extent is, you know, as many people can see the middle finger, but because
I have a platform now, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, that's why it's like I don't give a fuck about politics. That's why I'm in the room like, dude, what are y'all talking about? But I know that I have an importance, and I see so many people that's big don't use their power for good. You know what I mean? So I'm still learning as I'm going, but like when I'm putting certain, like, to be in a gift shop, when you first walk into CompassCon, that's like one of the first t-shirts you see. So just like I get to tell my story about how, and inside of CompassCon, most of the consumers are all black people, but none of us have our own brands. You know, so it's like I wanted to tell that story via t-shirt. You know, so that was my story behind that, and it worked. So that goes back into conversation. You know, I took something that was going on, there was like a lot of things that was going on social media, and I wanted to just have a t-shirt that kind of exposes what I thought. I'm really big on you going to work, talking about a t-shirt, school, class, like, so that's when you're talking about culture, I like to make I like to make conversation pieces. So that's one thing that we're, you know. Current events. This is one of my shining moments. Malia Obama, shout out to her. So when I dropped my Obama collection, I was trying to, that's probably my like biggest collection to date, you know? And the Obama collection was pretty much me wanting to you know, when President Obama first got elected, that was like the best day in Chicago. Like, everybody was partying, you know. It was like, I forgot what they had the TVs at downtown, but like, yeah, I was like 18, maybe 19, maybe 20, some shit like that. But it was like, it was so much love in the room and outside, everybody was going, it was the most peaceful Chicago I've ever been in 2 days to my knowledge. So beyond politics and beyond what you believe about his term as the president, I just want that inspired me as a black man, you know, seeing the first black man president. So I put together a collection that was, each piece was going to be a different, a symbol for each family member, you know. So with Malia, this just goes back into my current events topic of how I like to sell items and communicate to consumers. You know, it was a lot of articles. I think she had a lot of Palooza. I forgot, but it was videos coming out with her like hitting a joint. And so, you know, I'm like, let me just make a funny T-shirt. So, you know, she had got something to Harvard, so I did the colorway. But at the very bottom, she did like a screen version. But at the very bottom of the T-shirt, it says, "It's okay, we all smoke." Like it's like silk screen at the bottom of it. So it's like one of those hidden messages that you get after you, like, people know. Chance rocked it for me, so it went really viral. But you know, she saw that, she loved it. It was like a girl, it's all good. We all spoke, you know what I mean?
I feel like you're like the second cool like hip hop influenced shirt she's been associated with. I think she did one with like Joey Badass from Pro Era.
Yep.
So like, good for you being number two. Not number one in that respect, but solid deuce.
Yeah, right? So like, you know, it goes back into the point where I just like to talk and like, just like for people to be able to communicate and, you know, with my teas. So, fuck Donald. Got bootlegged like crazy, man. I get my shit bit a lot, man. You know, Paul. So with fuck Donald, this was before I even realized he was going to even get elected. So I did this like 4 years ago. The time go by super fast. 3 years ago. So that time he came to Chicago to do that speech, and he like shitted on the city or something like that. So like this is this is before we didn't know this was gonna be a reality. So as a joke to all my friends, I just made some fuck dollar t-shirts. Didn't expect to sell them. It was a joke, you know. I was just like, you're not gonna come to Chicago and dish Chicago. So first, I made one, posted it on Instagram, got a lot of like, wow, okay. Then I started in my store, and you know what I realized is it started to become people's uniform, like coach's uniform, you know. And again, this started off from Chicago. All the other things that happened with the wall and everything. This T-shirt just happened. I just did it because he was dissing Chicago. You know, I didn't like what he said about the thugs and whatever he said about. Go ahead.
Do you feel like you making the shirt in black, printing them the first big run of them in black, contributed to the uniform capacity that people ended up running with?
I didn't look at it like that, but I wanted it small. I just wanted it simple. I didn't want to put no big text because, like, partially some stuff I know is gonna get bootleg because it's easy. Right. You can go in your, you don't even know, you gotta know Photoshop or Illustrator to just like look up. I think that's a Helvetica bold and like put a flag on. So you know, but it was so small and like so simple that it was one of those things where I knew that people were gonna like, you know, take a kindness to. So yeah, it became my uniform. It goes back to my culture thing where just like I like to create pieces that like, even if you technically like don't want to wear the word fuck at work or whatever like that, it's like, yo, let me just do my duty and buy the t-shirt, you know? And I didn't realize what I was doing until I started getting emails from people from around the world that was rocking it and just telling me about how they feel and like just writing me batteries and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that goes back into my whole speaking, you know, a lot of things, those three examples are just how I like to speak for the culture. Before it get played out, like I said, and I stopped. You know, I didn't figure out a charitable way to give back the joints, and like I'm a person where I like to put something out, and if it goes good, I like to, you know, I take it offline, you know. So that's just how, bro. I'm a weirdo, man. But that's, you know, internet.
Speaking of which,
yes, right.
Taking things off the internet.
Yep. So the internet. This is when, you know, I figured out life. I would say November 23rd, 2012. So this is a tweet from Virgil. I love Twitter. So, you know, when we're talking about creating hype, I learned the power of the internet in the sense of I took a beanie, which is right there. I want to fuck Rihanna, which is like these days, like I'm not that proud of my, again, I'm 32. I've been making clothes since I was 13. So, you know, Chicago has watched me grow for good or bad, you know? Because I get destroyed for making that hat right now.
But this is where was the block again? The intersection with the parking lot. Yeah, this is that type of commerce, right? Yeah. Because this is something that is essentially very bootleg, very beauty supply store. Yeah. Like your edges are looking bad, like your hair's kind of messed up. Wear this beanie, right? But fast forward, the person who would then go on to become Louis Vuitton's first male fashion director of color. Yeah. Blessed you from then. Yeah, exactly. And that's what sucks about getting bigger. I can't like, you know, like. Stakes are too high.
Yeah, you know, I'm my brand. I don't really hide back. Like Supreme, a lot of people can't even name the owner of Supreme. I can name you 30 brands, but you don't know who owns it, you know? I'm Joe Freshgoods, I'm DBM, I'm Fat Tiger, so I have to be more careful about what I do, you know? And I take all that a little wiser now. I have a family, you know what I'm saying? I'm a man of the city, so I tend to look at a lot of the things I did back in the day and I kind of cringe, like, damn, I made that shit. But it made me who I am now. So with the hat, it was a simple acrylic hat. You know, I want to fuck Rihanna on it. You know, it was actually a little bit, whatever. But I literally told all my friends, this was like the hashtag is officially corny now. This is before hashtags was corny. So this is when everybody was figuring out social media and like tracking their stats via hashtags. So I told all my friends that, yo, I want you to tweet that you saw the hat. Like, I didn't post no picture of the hat or how it looked. I hyped everybody up. So you would get on social media, it would be like, yo, I was in class and Joe Freshgoods showed me the hat, blah, blah. So it kept happening, you know. Obviously, was cool with Virgil, but this was like a key moment where I actually went to RSVP and I showed Virgil the hat, and he was like, you know, said what he said. And, you know, I ended up, the night before, I dropped the hat on, was it Black Friday? Yeah. But I ended up putting ads around Chicago. I did a photo shoot, Wheat Paste, I Want to Fuck Rihanna coming soon. Dropped the hats online the next day without anybody knowing how they looked until 12 o'clock noon or whatever. And I sold out. I think that was the first time where it's just like, I'm 24, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing a pop-up shop, it's Black Friday, and I think I sold like 100 or something in a minute. And for me, I was like, holy shit. Y'all didn't even see how that looked. A day ago, y'all didn't even know what I was selling. You know what I'm saying? So that was like super key for me to realizing the power of the internet and creating hype and just getting the consumer talking. And knowing your audience and understanding your numbers and leverage kind of go hand in hand. I think now it goes back to our social media thing where just like, I don't have, you know, when I tell somebody like I don't have big numbers, they're like, you got, it's like, in my world and a lot of the agencies that I work with, they're used to working with influencers that, you know, have really big followings and blah, 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 but they can't really drive consumers nowhere. They can't really sell a product. So with me, it's just, I know my consumer, you know? I started off, you know, dropping these one-on-one things that was like funny, and I started communicating with it. Something would happen where I think Kanye announced that he's running for president in 2020 at MTV Awards. The next day I tweeted, hey Chicago, I bet you I'm gonna have a t-shirt ready for this by Tuesday. And then I had that shirt ready on Tuesday, then I had it in my store on Wednesday and I had a long ass line. So I just always like to play off and get my consumer and my customer and the fans involved in the t-shirt, because they feel like they're actually buying a product that they feel like they're a part of, as opposed to me just selling some bullshit. They get to go to work or school. Yeah, man, I was in line for about 20 minutes, man. Joe tweeted about this, and I bought the shirt. As opposed to like, yeah, man, it's a fly t-shirt. Like, I want you to wear my shit and have like a story, you know? So, you know, that goes back into my whole internet, you know, part of everything. So storytelling. So storytelling is something that I'm probably like, and I'm not a cocky dude at all, but like I'm a pro at this, you know? When I tell you, when I showed all the companies that I work with, a large part of it is them giving me a bullshit deck with them telling me what they want me to do. And like McDonald's, like, hey, we got this new Sprite. We want you to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, that's corny, let's do it this way. So I like to involve myself somehow, some way in the product, or, you know, just kind of, I do research, you know, and everything. So when Nike, they wanted me to do a Walter Payton jersey, I'm like, yo, how can you freak a jersey? You know, I can use different materials and like make some leather and like suede, but that's kind of corny. It's been done. Like, I'm a Bears fan. So it has to be a Walter Payton jersey. It has to be the Bears colors. The Bears and the Bears organization is amazing to deal with. But the reason why this jersey didn't come out is because the NFL didn't approve it. So that was like my first thing that I was going to do with Nike that got canned. But you know, I did my research. I'm like, holy shit, Walter Payton had a flu game. Everybody always associate the flu game to Jordan. Let me tell the story. So I read books, I did a little research. And again, it's just a jersey. So I think, you know, I like to actually, instead of just working with a product and you see Joe Freshgoods, X, blah, 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 it's just like, I'm going to make this work for me. And with this jersey, I put the year that it happened on. It's November 29th, I think, 1977. And at the bottom of it, I pretty much just told the story, and I had like a little column where they were numbered. And I put the word phi, which for a Nike product to have a slang word like sweetness was literally phi. They don't do shit like that. And I had the numbers plain. So little small stuff like that is just like part of my storytelling process with products.
So it is just a jersey, but then in a lot of ways, it becomes something you make a unique canvas.
Yeah.
With the way that you design and the way that you test limits and elements of a brief, a deck, the deliverables from a big marketer. Your point of view is like, okay, marketer, as a fellow marketer, let me tell you where this is wrong, all the way wrong.
Exactly.
And even if it doesn't work out to mass scale, it's something that can be perceived as very unique, that can be used to spice up your cachet and make the conversation a little bit more palatable to people who you might otherwise not think about including.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, you know, so like, you know, storytelling, you know, vocal motion, consumer participation, all those things I just mentioned on. It's just all about just not just selling any type of product. You know, I'm not saying my stuff is the highest quality of all time, but like, amongst anything, I want you to wear my stuff and feel proud about being in Chicago, being from Chicago, being of the culture. You know what I'm saying? I hate that word culture, but it all just boils down into one. Relatability. So, you know, I cringe when, you know, now I'm like at the point now where anything I drop in Chicago, it's a line outside. And I'm super grateful and humbled, but I'm like, I get so nervous. Like when I see people standing outside, it's like, man, I don't like to bask in the glory and like go outside and like, yo, what up everybody? Like, ask anybody, I'd be in the back nervous. Like I tell my intern or assistant to go outside with the phone and like, you know, so I can get it on Instagram, but like, or sometimes like this moment, you know, I'm like a Wicker Park kid. Before, Wicker Park is corny now, but like back in the day, it was the first stores were over there. Like it was super cool before it got super gentrified, you know? So like for me, growing up in fashion, having St. Alfred, Leaders, there was a store called Untitled back in the day, Silver Room, which was the first black-owned like store I saw in Wicker Park. I got my start as far as being in the Chicago scene and the Wicker Park days. All the hottest clubs and parties used to be over there. Now it's like completely different. But, you know, I saw this line and I was just taken aback. I had to go back in front of St. Alfred and just like was amazed, whatever. But, you know, when I talk about certain things and about being a lifestyle brand, it's just about a lifestyle brand is exactly what it is, a lifestyle brand. And with that, it's just like, you know, I tend to practice what I preach from all around the board. You know, I don't like to, I'm not putting things on the tee I don't believe in. You know, we was in this era of streetwear where everybody's all sad and depressed and it was like this sad boy gear and like everything was like black and white and like melted words and like, you know, and that's just not what I'm about. You know, the whole brand, the reason why I called it, the existence of my brand is because, you know, a guy brought the word dope for $250,000 and he was somewhat of a friend, you know, one of the OGs in the industry. And, you know, he was like, bro, you got to change your name, you know, and then it's like, it kept getting more serious as I was ignoring him. So, you know, what I worked so hard on with the Dope Boy Magic, with the tie-dye hoodies and all that shit, it was something that I couldn't do no more. So the reason why I called the brand Don't Be Mad was to kind of slight that dude, you know? So like, I actually really run a lifestyle brand, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not perfect. I'm for the people. You might see me sign a crazy shoe deal and then I'll be at Eastrum getting drunk with the homies, like speaking to people and shit. So like, I actually run a real brand. I'm super approachable in my city. I'm not one of those guys that like, I'm gonna make my money and go live all the way in the burbs. Like, no, I live in the city. So, you know, community, the young people agenda, it's just, you know, it's all about just having somebody that you can relate to. You know, when I go, my favorite people to talk to are high schoolers because I come in their classroom and they say, oh, wow, like, damn, you look like me. I could do this, you know? So just when creating a brand and just selling stuff to the masses, it's just like, for me, I just realized that there's a lot of people that feel how I feel. I do all my data when I see people lined up. That's how, they're tall, okay. You know, damn, I didn't know, like, I didn't realize that the city, like, I get so much love from the Hispanic community. It's like amazing, you know? And I see that when I see my lines. And that's kind of representation of Chicago because it's so like diverse as a city. So I just want to make sure that I do right by everybody, you know? I have a little bit more allegiance of the community a little bit more. So, you know, and this was like AT&T, you know, they tapped in another company. Hey, Joe, we got something called 312 Day. We're going to give you 1,500 to post about this. Bro, if y'all get the fuck out of my face. You know, talk to my manager. I have a manager now, so that's super dope. But I turned that conversation of them saying, hey, we want you to post about this. And keep in mind, I'm seeing what all my peers are doing. Like, y'all looking corny. Jesus, you know? So they reached out to me. I did that whole project. And I said, what I will do is I want y'all, I'm a finesser. I want y'all to pay for that big ass neon sign. So let me keep it after that, you know? Let me give back. I love giving back. A lot of this stuff is just like, people don't understand, I really do look at myself as like the Robin Hood of this fashion shit because I convince these companies to pay. Obviously, I get my little bread, but they're, you know, I'm making them give back to my city, you know? So that was a prime example of that.
And I think that's a big part of why you're greeted with a lot of welcome arms when you travel because, you know, to your point, a lot of, and I can speak as a New Yorker, a lot of people from the boroughs who do well, they do tend to disappear and go to Jersey. They do tend to disappear and go to Westchester, go to Connecticut, right? Rakim, right? One of the greatest rappers ever. Where did he move as soon as he got rich? Greenwich. Why? Because it's like Evanston, but it's in Connecticut. But again, I think that's a big part of why you're greeting with open arms. I know this one was, this pop-up was on Allen Street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Allen Street is a big deal in New York culture because that is where Prohibit, which is a brand that was part owned by, you know what's up, part owned by Mos Def. Their basement became the headquarters of ASAP Mob before they got the record deal, and like the rest is kind of history. They do festivals now. They party with Rihanna, literally. She'll end up in, she's like a static feature in their videos now.
Yeah.
But it is a place that is, frankly, it got at a point like when I want to say around the early like 2000, mid 2000s, like 2006, it just became very inhospitable to out-of-towners because I think a lot of people just come to New York super tourist mode. The way you see people in North Michigan, like if you live in Chicago and you're unfortunately on Michigan for some reason, you're like, I can't wait to get out of here. Like you people have no manners, right? New York was like that for a very long time, and Allen Street was like a great divide between Prohibit, Reed Space, A-Life, a lot of brands on the same level as a Fat Tiger Workshop or a Leaders or a St. Alfred. So I recognize that personally as a very unique trait of your personality.
Yeah. Which kind of sucks now in heart of what happened with Nipsey. Because, you know,
the neighborhood's dangerous.
You know, so it's a fine line. You know, I know that's kind of going off topic on what the
no, it's very on topic.
is.
We spoke about Nipsey when we talked about income and social class in this class.
Yeah. So when Nipsey did a pop-up at my store, when his first time coming to Chicago, and this was when my store first opened, I was a baby in the Chicago store realm. You know, I didn't have no bread. My store was little in Logan Square. He chose my store because I was the new kid on the block and I was black owned. And I remember him coming to my store like, yo, why you could have went to RGP or, you know, whatever. He like, nah, man, you black, and like, we gonna do this. And that's the last thing I've ever said to Nipsey ever. So me being a person that's proud to be in my city, like, got killed in front of this store. I'm like, I have a store. I'm super accessible. So sometimes that gets a little like, you know, we have problems in my shop where it's just like, damn, man, I'm too accessible. But it comes with the territory, you know? This moment, I was like skinny. I don't know what the fuck that is in my mouth or grim some shit. But
you look like Birdman, kind of.
Right, I got a Birdman shirt on.
And you look like Birdman. It's a little weird.
But yeah, it was like a moment of just like, and it happened. That goes back into the culture thing. Like he literally came to my store because I was new. You know, he knew I didn't know what I was doing. He could have took a check to do a pop-up at any other stores, but he chose my store because I was one of the new kids on the block, and I, you know, come from the same background. So, pop-up shops, traveling. So, you know, the next slide I'm gonna talk a little bit more about how I do my business and like, you know, availability and everything. But I think for me, I didn't go to school. I think I dropped out at like Harold Washington. Like, I don't even know if I was a sophomore. I don't know what it was. But she messed up the slide. It should be the other way around.
Oh, this one next?
That one did not.
Got it. Okay, I'll go back.
Yeah. So, you know, with me for pop-up shops, that's how I'm able to connect with the consumer. I realized that, like he was saying, like so I don't do wholesale, which I'll talk about a little bit more. So for me, going to pop-up, going to different cities, showing love, actually being at the store, hand-to-hand sales, that makes it better for me because that's me showing love, you know? I always tend to when I go to different cities, I don't pick the downtown area. I always tap into whoever's like, yo, what's going on? I tap in with people before I go to their city. It's like this, like, check into LA before you go to LA. Like, when I do pop-up shops, I check in. Couple of game bangers, couple of like I'm cool with a lot of different people. Yo, I'm gonna pull up. Is this a cool block? All right, cool.
And then also like dates. Like, is this like the right time to come?
Yeah,
if there's like big competition, or if it's a sweet window of, you know, dust bowls flying through, Joe's going to pull up and set up shop.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and all that, and the reason why I do that is because less is more. So, with this, so I got invited to be at Agenda. Are you guys familiar with what Agenda is? The trade show?
It's like Complex Con, but they're their own brand. So not like Complex is tied to the magazine and Hearst Publishing. Agenda is literally like a trade show for trade show shape.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm Trump right now, sorry.
Yeah.
A trade show for trade show's sake, as opposed to Complex Con, which is a very big brand.
Direct to consumer.
Right, direct to consumer for brands that Complex wants e-commerce relationship.
Or you could be a brand and like if I had $7,000 and I want to buy a 10 by 10, I could do that. With Agenda, you can't come to my booth and buy anything. That's just me. Agenda that's where brands go.
For vendors.
For vendors. So like say I'm Adidas and I want to be in 30 stores or I'm a whatever. You get a booth at Agenda to get clients, to get potential retailers. So when Agenda is whack right now because the game right now is super messed up. So a lot of brands are going with the rise of the internet and like, you know, it's just different. So when Agenda, they invited me out, they flew me out to Vegas to do a trade show to show my brand. And I decided to take that moment to build like an insane asylum to explain why I don't understand wholesale. So I got invited to do wholesale and I shitted on wholesale, respectfully. So my booth was pretty much just past due invoices, line sheets, and like just a bed that said help me. So, you know, I just do stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, for me, like, go back to the slab with the keys and shit. So like for me, all those they won't leave me alone, you know?
Because of your disposition at the trade show.
Yeah, so, you know, I can hit up Urban Outfitters on my phone right now. PacSun, yo, Joe, we got a huge check for you. Zoomies, yo, Joe, we got a huge check for you. You know, for me, less is more because, like, I've seen a lot of those people kill brands, you know? I'm not dissing nobody. Hey, if anybody that's shopping there, I'm not, because I'm still bashing for Urban Outfitters, you know? So I'm not dissing the person that shops at these stores, but for me being a brand, for me, this is a brand killer. I'm not a fan of the big PO. Like, it's different game plans. Like, for me, if Urban Outfitters places an order with me, and it's, hey, Joe, we want to buy, let's see here, we want to buy 10,000 tees to put in 60 Urban Outfitters doors around the world, there might be probably, if I'm charging maybe like, you know, you got to charge cheaper when you're dealing with them type of brands. So that might be a $30,000, $40,000 check, you know? But if certain things don't sell, you might have a t-shirt on your web store that's $40. Urban Outfitters might mark it down to $19.99. And it kills brands.
Or less, even.
Or less.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, and again, in brand terms, I've made it pretty far because like a lot of people in my position would have took these, you know, but so it's like, it's different for me. I look at these people not as the enemy, but I'm gonna just let them keep sweating me until I come up with like a fake brand. give that to them. That's it? Yeah.
That's not it, but that's it for those slides. Joe has his very own colorful way of putting things. Some of you, I think he spoke to a lion's share of the questions you guys asked via email submission. For those of you that didn't, by the way, no 500 questions today, like literally like, keep it tight. Those of you who had a question that you didn't find recognized in Joe's presentation to this point, please feel free to step in and ask that now. Out of respect for like times where we have guest speakers and I do have to kind of rush them out, I have got this room till 6, so we do have time. No rush, or if you know you feel like you can get a chance to ask us yet, there's still time. So please feel free to take the floor with your questions. Sure, Andy.
So at the start, you described your shirt.
I'm literally timing you with like a minute. I swear to God.
You like you that bad?
At the start, you said that the first shirts you did were very much like there would be a news piece and then boom, you had your shirt out.
Yeah.
So then when you're talking about Zoomies, PacSun, and all that, do you think that if you're pushing these shirts at such large quantities, that by the time they're actually available, ready to sell, that it would just kind of like be outdated or not really catching the audience at the right time? Would you keep it small?
Well, it just depends. Like I don't know everybody's numbers when it comes to like what type of, like with the Kanye shirt, a lot of things I do that's like pop culture reference, and like I hate the word fast fashion. When I think of fast fashion now, I think of
Zara,
not even like what's the shit that Kim K be wearing? Fashion Nova. When you talk about fast fashion, you like 4 years ago, I used to wave my fast fashion flag like, yo, I did that shit fast. Now it's just like, whoa, that's too fast, and that's like you just bit a whole dress from a famous designer in 2 days. Like,
Diet Prada.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I love that fucking favorite Instagram. So for me, and I do have different brands. Like when I do those type of things, which I can't do it anymore. I got lawyers, like I got too many people on my ass now. Like I miss when I had 3,000 followers, so I could do anything, you know? So it's different. Now that I have more attention, that formula, what you're talking about, it wouldn't really apply to those stores. I would have to sell my brand. I wouldn't do that type of stuff because it really wouldn't work no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, and those stores, they just be wanting anything. You know what I mean? Like, yo, Joe, just obviously they have to somewhat approve it, but they just want whatever that I have in like stock right now. Yeah.
Thank you for kicking us off, Andy. Justin, and then Elias.
So you kind of opened up with the thing about Supreme. I just want to get like your take on that, just because it is like a super easy way for people to get into that culture, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's getting to the point where it's like too gaudy and like too? It's kind of like on a pedestal. Do you think people that like kind of see that it deters them from getting into the culture, or do you think it's gonna like solidify as like a street Louboutin or like a street?
Yeah. Well, you know, back in the day, which I hate saying the term back in the day, but like, you know, streetwear was like, oh, you got on hundreds, I got on hundreds, damn, we're friends. You got on those SBs, like, you know, we, you know, with Karma Loops and a lot of these, the big brands, they made everything so diluted. You used to have to travel for certain pieces. Like, damn, where you get that hat from? Oh, you went to that store in New York? Oh, all right, cool, let's go get lunch together. You know, like, it used to be now you see with the Stock X and all, you can dress in a uniform. You didn't have to do no research. You can literally go on your couch and get all the hot stuff without having to travel. It didn't used to be like that. You know, I wear Supreme every now and then just because of that fact. Because I'm still a streetwear baby. You know what I'm saying? So I still appreciate certain things, but it is a little corny now. And I do think you can be a 10-year-old. I see 11-year-olds come to my store just like all they drip down, Off-White's on,
Drip.
Supreme, and just like,
Big
you
drip.
can tell that, you know, like I didn't get my first Supreme until I was like 15. I like went to New York, I stood in line at the store for 2 hours, like that's what it was all about, you know? Yeah. And I think now you don't really gotta I know it's just clothes, so it's like put in hard work for clothes, but streetwear, what the term come from, you got to put in a little work. Now you can just like, now it's like a streetwear kit. You could just like, okay, let me get my cool shirt, let me get my Off-Whites, let me get my cool joggers, get my tattoo right here, and my dad hat with the thing right there, and like
Let me add to that. Knowing was not around when we were younger. The idea of like gridding and all that was not a concept, right? I mean, I guess mathematically or whatever, if you're like, you know, working on like a rocket fuel or something, sure, but not like in terms of like fashion. So she's totally right. Shared values had its own thing. I mean, even if you look at like spoof movies of the 90s, like anything with Channing Tatum before he became like a big Hollywood deal, he's always playing like that down guy, like wearing Timbs and dancing and like wearing like a wife beater like as like some type of a head wrap. Like those are real shared values. Like, oh, we're like, how'd you learn how to do that? It was really grounds to communicate. I think the internet democratized things. Sadly, in democratizing them, it kind of corroded the pure intention behind a lot of purchases. Now it's like I'm getting it just to show I have it, not because I want to be included in this community. So that's very accurate. Yeah. That answer your question sufficiently? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for asking a question, Elias. Q. And ladies, please don't be shy, because there's only been so many of you. It's like a male-dominated class. Joe wants to hear what you have to say.
So I know you've been making clothes since you were like 13, and I know like you were inspired a lot by the hood and like for the hood. But like when you started doing things at a bigger scale, did you have an ideal consumer in mind, or like an ideal target audience that you wanted to buy your clothes, or you were just kind of like putting it out there and seeing like whoever liked it, when it got it?
Well, you know, taking race away from it, things like when I think of the Midwest, I think the Midwest too plays a lot of part. So Chicago, yes, but the Midwest in general, I think the characteristics of like everyday people, like, you know, not the glitz and glamour of the LA maybe, and not like everybody in New York move too fast. Like, you know, so they're just always going somewhere. Like,
no offense taken.
Right, no, my bad. Just like, slow down, man. Everything, like, I'm in a meeting. What'd you say? Like, everything in New York is like so like, whoa. So, and, you know, before me, I didn't really see a brand represent the Midwest like what we are as people. And so, like, I always talk about me doing data research and everybody that's lined up for my stuff. When I start seeing people line up and, like, just start looking at my online sales and what cities it's coming from, I'm like, oh, okay, this is my consumer, you know? I don't really want to charge, like, I've got enough clout where I can probably charge, like, $200-$300 for a t-shirt. Like, I got some good looks. I got everybody wearing my stuff and celebrities or whatever, but, like, I know it's a guy that exists that usually don't get that love, guy, girl, whatever, that I just want to spend 40, 50, like true streetwear numbers, you know? Like, because some people tell me $50 for a t-shirt is too much. It's like, you don't really shop like that then, you know what I mean? Because some people, my peers, you go to Barney's, their t-shirts are like $450, $500, $600. I got 6, 7 employees, still small business, you know, that's why. So with me, I know my consumer, I call it the blue collar streetwear is what I pretty much consider what I do. It's that person that, you know, doesn't have a shit ton of money, but just want to look good. Want to wear a conversation piece at work, school, traveling, or whatever. You know, person of color, you know? Because, like, one thing about New York, I was like, oh, shit. Like, it was a lot of kids of color that was like, man, damn, man, you like my Black Supreme. And I hate being compared to certain things, but I can't control how a kid in Harlem look up to who I am. So when I started traveling around the world, like I was getting the same love in Japan, like, you speak for like where I come from, like damn. So for me, it's just like that person that don't want to spend a shit ton of money on clothes, look cool. And I think when we talk about streetwear, having that conversation, you can still wear my stuff in different cities or Chicago. Oh, you know Joe? Oh, you know Terrell? You've been a Fat Tiger before? It's still those conversations. Like I'm still one of those rare brands where it's just like, I know you didn't get that at a department store. I know you didn't get that, like, oh, you got that at the pop-up shop in New York, or you got that pop-up in LA. So it's just like, you know, it's that person that just want to be fly for not a lot of money and just regular. You know, I just did a article in Complex where they kind of titled that shit really wrong. I wasn't trying to shit on hypebeast, but like sometimes people come in my store, all grill on, Supreme, everything, baked, whatever, and come in my store and they be like, "What? You don't sell shit?" I'm like, that's not my customer.
I don't sell that shit.
Yeah, like if you're looking for all that type of stuff, you at the wrong store, bro. Go to Notary Shop or some shit like that, you know, or you know. So for me, like that's my dude. The dude that want to support the local guy and wherever I'm at, that's my consumer. Not the dude that's just like, oh, y'all ain't got no drip in here, I'm out.
So for you, it's a conscious choice to keep the price point inclusive and accessible enough for your global e-commerce audience and the places where you do physical pop-ups at to keep the essence of your brand and your namesake about shared values as opposed to about exclusivity for sake of being exclusive and to shit on people.
Yeah, because my stuff is limited. I think that's another thing too. Like even right now, I was just joking with my team. If you want to support me right now, you can't even do that. Like both of my websites are like, I took the shopping cart off, which is like, my stuff is exclusive, but not on purpose. It's just like, I don't like for you, I get bored fast. So like, this goes back to the lifestyle brand thing. I feel like dropping, like I haven't dropped none all year. I'm doing Pharrell's festival next week. So I did a whole homage to Pharrell that's coming out, like next Friday. I just like make clothes when I want to make clothes. You know what I'm saying? So, and that goes back into my less is more thing. I'm not like putting stuff out to fill a quota. It's like, damn, I got to make some sales this week. I just like, I'm bored. Let me just drop some clothes. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Q, and then who's the next question over here? I'm going to pick someone otherwise. And it's going to be Karen. Cool. Q, what's your question?
You talked about being accessible. Do you not feel like that's what separates you from all the other brands? Because like when you were selling like the fuck down shirts, I was coming in there and speaking to you when you was telling me you had to come in and redo the shirts.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought like was like your niche to it, like about it. Because like now I see the face of the brand and like you said, keeping the black dollar.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought was like kind of good with your brand. And you saying you know it's kind of different with being accessible. You don't really feel it like
It's taking the good with the bad. Like when my product, again, keep this between us. I ain't no announcements yet. But when my people understand, like when I drop my stuff with Adidas, that's gonna be the first time ever you're gonna be able to buy a product from me from around the world at the same time. It's never been like that. As you know, it's a thin line, man, because I do, you know, people understand, like, man, I'm supporting my mom, I'm supporting my family. I got 7 employees, all off t-shirts. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. Ain't no drug money, I never took out no loans, no shit like that. I ain't got rich parents. So like for me, it's a thin line because it's like, yes, accessible is, you know, but just like, it's tough, man. Some of these checks with these companies be like, damn, I don't want to do that. But like, like I said, it's a weird thing because like, I don't believe in the word selling out because everybody got to get it how you live. You know, I'm not going to question somebody else for taking that deal from Zoom. Like, I wish if I had a bigger team, I would come up with a fake brand to sell to Urban Outfitters. They rating on it. I don't have, it's not for Joe Freshgoods to come up with another brand to sell up in there. So it's one of those things where it's a fine line and it's just for everybody else. With me, brick and mortars, I'm like over the brick and mortar now. Like when my lease is up with Fat Tiger, I love my store, but I'm more in love with the pop-up, you know? I want to kind of have a small location in Chicago, LA, and New York, and only open up when I want to. So not the Supreme effect, but in a perfect world, I will have a store, bi-coastal, Chicago, and I'll open up 4 times a year. So you can only catch this product 4 times for 2 days, you know? So it's just different, you know? It all depends on what each brand and what each individual company want. But for me, it still feel good to like, let me drop 200 tees and sell them out real quick, as opposed to like having you to keep, because if once it sell out, you're gonna be a little bit more faster to buy it once I'm dropping it, you know what I mean? So, you know, but it's a fine line.
For sake of scale, I had the students do homework on Johnson Publishing selling to the Negro in 1964. So
yes. I did my research for that T-shirt. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So they were very familiar with the concept of the black dollar, especially in a majority POC city like a Chicago or like a New Orleans or like a New York or a Detroit or a South Los Angeles. But speak to, in your workshops, I'm sure you've come across students or people looking to learn from you who might not identify ethnically as black, but they're also very keen on how do they grow community dollars in their own community, right? I know that is definitely a point of concern for Mexican and Latinx peoples. I know Mexicans don't identify as Latinx, but they're in that broader group. I know it's definitely an area of interest for Pacific Islanders or Indo-Chinese or people from that part of Asia as well, who might have been displaced or marginalized or otherwise meant to feel othered, right? And then for other type of European immigrants who might be coming here through which type of means, like what's your global message as far as like not maybe not just limited to protecting your dollars, but like protecting your skin, your logo type thing. You know what I mean? Like where does that fit into how you communicate to people? And then Karen.
Yeah, well, I'm tiptoeing a fine line because again, I am proud of where I come from, but again, I don't want to single a group out. You know,
kind of like Jordan.
What?
Like Mike Jordan. Right?
Yes.
Republicans buy sneakers too, right?
Fuck them kids. You know, fuck them kids. So like, and that's one thing I've learned about when I went to Japan and just experiencing that culture, because what I realized is just like, for me, it's just like, just because you're not black don't mean you don't identify with my struggle. And like, for me, it's just one of those things where I try not to, I look at everybody as a whole. When I do my workshops in the classrooms and stuff like that, it's everybody up in there. So I talk from an experience of like, this can go for everybody, but at the same time, it's just like I do
speak from the heart for yourself.
Have to speak from the heart and be proud of my culture, where I come from.
That's very important.
Because I don't see that many people doing what I'm doing right now. So it's just like, for some time, I feel like it's a kid underneath me that's super dope, that's coming up, but it's gonna take for me to do what I'm doing right now for that person to rise up. So it just, I do make sure I don't single people out with these conversations and what I'm putting out into the universe, but it's just like, I do gotta be proud of where I come from and how I'm able to,
It's like that photo of that kid touching Obama's hair. Like clearly he's like a global figure. He identifies with like multiple ethnic groups.
Right.
But he does need to like let that little boy know like it's okay to like dream big dreams. And I think not just as a brand, but like as a smart future-proof marketer, I think that's very keen of you to have that like always in the front of your mind about like how am I perceived, how is my perception of myself informing other people's perception of people like me that they may have never physically met in person.
Exactly.
Maybe have never seen something like me in a room like this. Maybe
I got a message from a white kid, and it's just like I felt bad for him, man. Like, you gotta do all that, bro. Like, we good. He sent me a message a couple of weeks ago and was like, hey man, I think I'm afraid to come in your store. What did he say? And I was like, no, that's not my whole goal. He was like, I want to make sure, like, I come from like the suburbs, but it's like, I didn't grow up rich, like blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm like, no, man, that's not what we're about.
Did you give him a shirt?
No, I didn't give him no shirt.
Okay.
But like, we're like the barbershop, you know what I'm saying? The barbershop, The barbershop embraces anybody.
True.
You might get a little roasted, but this is where we come from.
It's very true.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to judge somebody that come in my store like, oh, you look like me. I'm not going to sell to you. I'm very appreciative of anybody that comes through that door. You know what I'm saying? Just that it's the barbershop. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk about what we talk about. You know, it's just how we are. You got to get,
And if you want to be a part of the culture, this is part of the culture.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But no, I just said, bro, it's all love, man. Like, come through. And he came through. Like, he didn't get no shirt. He just chopped it up.
That's very important.
Offered me a blunt. I'm like, yo, okay, we fam now, you know?
Okay, cool. Karen? Can you speak up a little bit?
Do you put any emphasis on including women's streetwear in your store?
Yeah, so that's something that's been tough. I did a workshop and I said, it was like a town hall discussion. And, you know, I'm growing still and I'm trying to understand a lot of new things and new terms. But I said, so what can we do for females in fashion? And I got grilled. You can't say female no more. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, and this young woman had to school me on why that term is like, you know, and I just was like, fuck, man. Like, what can I say? What, you know, because I have to be careful. I'm getting bigger, so it's like I got to watch what I post online, whatever. So, yes, I am, because, you know, with me, it's like a lot of back-end stuff, you know? Like even for CompassCon, a lot of companies are like, yo, I'm Toyota, I got a shit ton of money. We need a woman. I do a lot, like for my store, we did this campaign with Chicago Girls Do It Better. That was pretty big, you know what I'm saying, showing love. We do a lot of activities, like next week we're doing a workshop with all females, Jesus. All women, you know, there's different workshops and bringing, so we're trying, you know, because it is, we're not about to hire our first, not our first, but like, so we're trying, you know. Streetwear for so long has been a boys club, you know, and you know, we're constantly breaking those barriers in like real time. So, you know, it's one of those things that's definitely, I was just talking to my photographer about us bringing a different photographer on board that's, you know, a woman, you know what I mean, just to kind of spread the arts. But like, I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like a lot of stuff that's going on, a lot of companies for CompassCon, you know, because the working with women is like a hot topic right now. You know, so just like been kind of making sure everybody good, you know what I'm saying? But that is an important question though. Make sure, you know.
Kimmy, Crystal, Catherine, Ellie, you have your hand up. And any of you ladies have questions you want to ask, or you're okay for now?
Can I?
Okay, cool. Ellie first, Kimmy next. And let me get the roll sheet when you guys are done.
Just to touch on what you just talked about with her, do you find it hard to tap into that part timing? Is it a lack of knowledge or a lack of like having women in the room to speak for women?
Well, for so long, you got to talk about price points too, you know? And I'm not even trying to single any women out, but like, it's kind of discouraging in the market when you have a lot of, you know, a girl can get fly for like 40, 50 bucks. Not all women, but back in the day, you know, and all the quality, everything is the same. So the t-shirt, the printing, it's the same thing. So if I'm charging $40 for a men's t-shirt, I can't charge $10 for a women's shirt. I'm gonna go out of business. But early on, I got discouraged because a lot of women used to be like, yo, I can get the whole outfit for what you charging for a hoodie. And like, I'm a small, I can't, you know, so I know women shop, but for early on, it was discouraging as a young brand, because focusing on women's wear and like kids and stuff like that, it's the same price to make men's wear, but I had to sell it at cheaper prices, you know? So now, what I focus more so is on unisex. So like a lot of my t-shirts I print on unisex tees. Like, you know, thanks to like people like homies like SZA, like everything that she rocks for me, like it be just unisex. So it's like, I tend not to single out like with Adidas, I'm doing a skirt. It's my first time I'm ever making like, you know, like a tutu, like paying homage to my daughter. So I'm making like a big grown tutu. So like I'm trying, you know what I'm saying? But it just depends. I just need more encouragement and like just understanding the women's market a little bit more. Cause I don't want to just put out stuff at different price points, but y'all got certain brands and companies where y'all can pay like for a whole you dig for, you know what I'm saying, $50, and I'm charging $50 for a goddamn fucking hoodie, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's tough trying to understand the women's market and like how to combat prices, you know?
And how to break up segments, market segments, right? Like you highlighted, like it's usually women's and kids sold together, right? Or brands tend to group that way, right? Like men's, teens, women's, and kids, right? So it's a big opportunity for your brand and for, you know, brands that follow your brand, right? Influencing influencers, for them to kind of see how you're innovating and pivoting.
Yeah, and even when I shoot lookbooks, I shoot lookbooks with everybody. So it might be a man's t-shirt, but I might dress it up on a woman so you can show how you can style and wear it, you know?
Thank you.